So, in this video, I'd like to answer two questions you may have. The first is whether a 460 card is good enough for path tracing, and the second question is whether path tracing itself is worth it instead of normal ray tracing. And for both questions, I can say absolutely yes. Because the game, as you can see, it looks crazy beautiful on path tracing. And I'm also running this on pretty ancient hardware, and as you can see in the top right corner of the screen, I got around 60 FPS, and the game is very responsive. Okay, I'll show you my settings in a moment. So as I mentioned, my PC the hardware I'm running it on is pretty ancient. In fact, it's built in 2016. The CPU I'm running is a Intel 6700K, which I bought in 2016. I can just keep staring at this for minutes, and it's mesmerizing. So first I'll show you the settings, and then I'll show you why path tracing is so good and what makes it different from ray tracing. Okay, first I'll go to the settings. Okay, first I'll show you the regular graphics settings, which is, okay, got over here. Everything's set to max, as you can see. And the important thing here is path tracing set to on. Now, path tracing in photo mode, that's an optional thing if you want to make a screenshot to get path tracing in that too. Okay, also I want to mention that I'm running this on a 24-inch monitor, and the resolution I'm using is 1920 by 1080. Now, if you're used to high resolution monitors, that might seem low for you, but for me, that's the monitor I had available, and there might also be a reason why this graphics card can still handle it, even though the game developers actually say it shouldn't be able to handle it properly. Notice here, path tracing requires at least a Geforce 470 Ti or an RTX 3900, which are a lot more expensive than a 4060, which cost me, I think, 350 euros. Okay, so I only have very small tweaks to the settings here, which is I use NVIDIA DLSS, and I'm using super resolution. Now, if you don't know what that is, basically, super resolution is something where the game runs the game at a lower resolution than your monitor resolution, and then upscales the image for each frame and uses some graphics card technology so you can't see that it's upscaled. And it runs pretty well because I can't see the difference between upscaled or... So for settings over here, first I'm going to show you, I got frame rate generation on and super resolution set to performance. Now the setting here doesn't matter that much. It's just my old CPU is, I think, dragging down the graphics card. That's a using performance setting. However, in terms of graphics quality, it's almost identical. So first I'm going to show you how the game runs with super resolution off. Okay. Pressing apply. Let's look at the screen. You can see it looks really nice. However, my FPS is currently at 9 FPS. 15 FPS, which means the graphics card is getting hammered. 26 FPS, and I got severe mouse lag over here. Okay. I'll go back to settings. Now turn on super resolution, or any setting except off turns that super resolution thing on. Now if I set it to quality, already getting much better FPS, twice the FPS, 46, 48, but I'm still getting some input lag. You probably don't notice it in the video. That's because I think my CPU is really slow. Okay. And also, one thing I want to notice about the quality setting. Notice as I'm looking here, now I'm turning the camera away quickly. The one thing is to turn it quickly so you see the difference. Okay, like this, over here. Now you probably don't see any difference. That's the quality setting, okay? Because now I lower it to ultra performance. Apply. Let's turn my camera back. Now notice my FPS is much better now, 80, and I got no input lag. Let's look at the screen. Let's turn away quickly. Do you see that? it looks like the graphics card has issues delivering certain things in time. So you see, like, it looks like some parts of the screen look like there's some rain falling on it until the graphics card figures it out. So this setting doesn't actually lower the quality of the lighting. It just makes it slightly less accurate. Well, if you can deal with some screen artifacts flickering occasionally, as you can see over here in this area, then the ultra performance setting is still really nice because you still get the full lighting quality. It's just not as accurate. You know, if I set it, so for me, the ideal compromise is setting it to performance because then I don't get input lag and it's good enough for the graphics quality. And I got the DLLA setting off because it's a different thing from regular frame generation. And for that, I get really bad FPS, so I can't really use them. Okay, so those are the settings. I'm going to show you various scenes in the game that really show where path tracing is superior to ray tracing. And after I've shown you these scenes, you will look at ray tracing like it's some DirectX 8 rendering from 1996 that was rendered on a hamster wheel built by Aaron Turing in 1946. Because it will look this bad compared to path tracing. Because if you're not used to path tracing and ray tracing, at the beginning you'll have difficulty spotting the difference. Well, notice I didn't move the camera like for a minute. Now, where do your eyes get drawn to the most in that picture? You know what it is for me? It's over here. It's that graffiti wall. You know what it is? Notice the subtle changes in color as the screen wall behind me changes color. But that's not the important thing about path tracing. It's that path tracing really shines, or really makes a difference, not in the super amazing areas where you can see holographic displays shining in your face, because this effect you can almost get with graphics technology from 2006. I think Counter-Strike had it when they introduced bloom and auto exposure. What really makes a difference with path tracing is when it reaches the edges of what the lighting really can touch and the way lighting looks at the edges of that. That's where the game tricks into looking photorealistic in some areas. Notice at the wall. Like keep looking at that wall. Over here. Notice it as the color changes. It's not the color change itself. It's the way the lighting on the wall is just right to give you that moment of photorealism, because as light basically propagates, it loses its luminance and volume and its intensity, and that gradient of loss of luminance. Notice here. It just gives you that moment of photorealism, especially if you look at this area, how it creeps over here and how the lighting gets lost over here. Okay, now here's another scene where I want to show you how path tracing really makes a difference compared to ray tracing. It's not this scene, it's just I'm going to walk up to it, turn around. And this is the parking garage below the place where we has the standard apartment. Okay, now let's look at the taxi parked like this at an angle. Now, if you observe this area, like this area over here, that's where my eyes get drawn to the most in the entire picture right now. It's not that glowing neon over here. It's not the other things. It's that moment of photorealism that's basically caught in that side of the car. And I parked this car at exactly that angle for a reason, to show it up. Because it has two interesting light sources. It has the strong neon light, and it has that powerful but diffuse light coming from the ceiling. That's extremely difficult to make look good in lighting in video games. That's what makes path tracing so magical. Okay, let's walk up to the car. Notice that it just has that photorealistic look to it, the side of the car. Okay, as I'm scrolling over, notice the color difference of the side that's shined on this side and this side over here. As I'm scrolling, notice the reflection of the 1-0 on that, the crispness of it, the way it shows you the smoothness of the surface. Okay, now let's look at this side of the car again. Notice how this slightly, very aqua blue tinted light illuminates this side of the car. And notice the difference to the other side of the car. Like for me, that's so mesmerizing, I can't take my eyes off it. Now that's another beautiful scene where I saved the game exactly in that location. Okay, look at this. The beautiful variants over here. You get the white light, then you get the green light from the advertising area, the way it bounces off the wall. And in a moment at the other end of the video, I'm going to show you a comparison screenshot of that scene too. Okay, now here's another scene, but that's not really a scene that makes path tracing shine. This scene also looks really good in with normal ray tracing. I just wanted to show you for contrast, because most videos that do these comparisons about path tracing, they just show you this huge amount of neon lights, reflective floors, and you can't really tell the difference between path tracing and ray tracing in those scenes. However, I still want to demonstrate something. Here I parked this beautiful Galena car. That's one of my favorite cars in the game, because that's what I love about Cyberpunk. It's not just this, everybody's this super ninja who, and every time it's raining and it's neon pink. Sometimes you just drive a normal car like that. And even notice how beautiful the lighting reflects off it on the side of the car. Because there's several things that play in that scene. So you get the light you can see from this advertisement bouncing off here, and the light from here bouncing on the car. And notice the reflection on the ground. It is these small. There's again this small moment of photorealism on the side of the car, and it's always where the light barely touches something. Where it's like getting difficult for the light calculations. That's where path tracing really gets through where ray tracing can't. And I'll show you a screenshot of that scene too in both settings. And I'm going to show you a more difficult example, which at first glance might not look that interesting. Okay, it's not that alleyway in the front that's glowing like that, because that's overexposure. That's something that's easy to do without path tracing. Okay, so I walked this scene. I walked like this over here, and then I looked over here, and you see this wall over here caught my eye. And I was fascinated by the way the lighting looked in this scene. Now, for you, that might not look that interesting, but I'll show you comparison screenshots in a moment of path tracing, which is currently on, and just using regular ray tracing. Now that's one of the alleys where I told you that's not that interesting. See, that's with path tracing. Notice that bloom is normal. Most game engines have that. But notice here the way the light bounces. Let's switch to ray tracing. Notice you only get the exposure boom from the direct lighting, but the way the lighting basically washes into the indirect areas is much weaker. Back to path tracing. See the difference here? Notice this one also almost gets no bounce light. But with path tracing, it bounces all the way over here and even reaches around this corner. Okay, now comes the alleyway side. It doesn't look that interesting to you, because that's going to be the biggest shocker in terms of difference. Okay, as I said here, it doesn't look that interesting. Like, I pay attention to these things in video games, so for me that wall here was super fascinating, the way it was lit. But many people might think it's not that interesting now. Now watch ray tracing. That looks like 20-year-old game compared to the. Let's say lighting is smooth and even, like it is not lit at all. Now path tracing. And this entire area doesn't receive direct sunlight. It's only bounce light it gets from around other walls. See here the massive difference here. It's like the graphics card trying to guess random lighting settings with ray tracing. Because imagine ray tracing was considered the best technology 2 or 3 years ago, and path tracing mops the floor with it. Look at this. Okay, that's the thing I showed you earlier. Notice here, beautiful white lights, the green light bouncing over the wall. Now prepare to get shocked by ray tracing. How bad it looks. Here we go. This looks like a Half-Life 2 mod. Look at this. No, the bounce lighting barely reaches it. It's like just a hint of it. And path tracing fully covers it. Now to finish off this video, I'll show you one last scene, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. Okay, so see, that's the beauty of path tracing in this game. It's that it's not just for these high contrast holographic scenes. It's these dirty, normal looking areas where lighting just looks great in areas where it's difficult to look great. Like, for example, the way I parked this car on purpose like this. Notice here the way the lighting works on it. And I hope this would answer your question whether a 460 card is good enough for path tracing. And I think it is. I mean, I'm playing this on a 1920 1080 resolution, but I think it's good enough. I mean, if you have a 24-inch or 22-inch monitor, I think it's all you need to get this beautiful lighting quality. And once you try playing a game with a full path tracing on, it's like you don't want to go back to anything without path tracing.